when my kid was 6 years old,
Yeah.
I was sitting in bed, I was putting him to bed, and I was playing him the Rolling Stones off my phone. And when he was 6 years old, he's behind. And
No way.
what do you mean? Who's behind? He goes, the guitarist, he's behind. And I was like,
Oh, he understood that he was late.
oh, right. Keith Richards that's his style of being behind. Yeah, he's late, right?
Yeah.
He's I thought that was so cool. That blew my mind.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so he really had he always had an ear for it. I hope he figures it out. He will.
Oh, for sure he will.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
it's awesome to watch.
You either want to do music or you don't.
Yeah, right?
It's like, because otherwise you got to question the reasons why you wanted to. Because some people are like, I just want to be a rock star.
Yeah.
I want to be famous or something, which is certainly an initial primer, which is great. But then, like, you fall into it and you fall in love with it. That's one thing. But I think, like, sometimes people
being like part comedian, part musician. Have you ever had like I heard you reference like Jill Scott on stage? Has anyone ever like that ever reached out to you and said like, hey, dig what you do? Or I would think
on occasion, usually it's me posting about them and then they'll respond.
Yeah.
Like Bonnie Raitt got back to me once.
Bonnie Raitt?
Yeah, I posted,
that's cool.
I just said, like, Bonnie Raitt is like one of the most important artists of the last century and the current century,
Yeah.
because, like, we don't have that many people that are talented like that, where she's an insanely talented guitar player, musician, songwriter, lyricist. And obviously she's worked with amazing songwriters and all that, but also her voice is so distinct. It as soon as she says one note, you're like, oh my God, that's Bonnie.
Yeah.
And her soulfulness. And I mean, I have infinite amount of respect for her.
Who are your influences? Comedy and
Just
music.
Bonnie Raitt.
Comedy too, right?
Yeah, for sure. People don't know that she's really funny. If you really listen to her guitar solos, you're like, oh, I get it. That's funny. No, I mean, like, comedy-wise, early days, Monty Python, and pretty much all British humor.
Yeah.
British silliness, the British absurdity.
Benny Hill?
Benny Hill, not so much. Benny Hill was like,
my dad used to watch Benny Hill.
I watched it and I just liked the pretty women.
Sure.
I liked that, but as a little boy.
Sure.
But I would say, yeah, Richard Pryor for sure. Bill Cosby. I would say Carol Burnett. I mean, a little bit like.
I miss Carol Burnett. I never really watched that show or anything.
She was amazing. Those sketches that she would do, like the Gone with the Wind sketch, which is like infinitely classic.
Yeah.
Her like making a dress out of the curtains, but she leaves the curtain rod in. It's just like this giant curtain rod, and she's coming down the stairs. It's catching on things.
That's funny.
And it was cool because, like, she's like she did a lot for the industry. She did a lot for women in comedy as well. I really appreciated her. I remember talking to Justin Timberlake once, like a long time ago. He wanted to meet with me in Williamsburg when they were trying to get him to take over MySpace.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we just talked for probably like 15 minutes on Carol Burnett. He was a huge Carol Burnett
Really?
fan. And the thing that we kind of both talked about is, like, she was just funny. It wasn't about her like, oh, she's a funny woman.
Yeah.
She was just funny.
Yeah.
And I never thought about her as a funny woman. I was like, oh, no, she's just
That's
funny.
cool.
And same thing with Gilda Radner, Madeline Kahn as a comedic actor. I loved Terry Garr. Like, I loved those people, or even like the Jeffersons, like everybody on the Jeffersons, all the women in the Jeffersons.
I used to love the Jeffersons.
So funny, or Sanford and Son and things like that. But loved that. And yeah, but Carol Burnett, yeah, for sure. And Eddie Murphy was huge. I mean, I
had all those cassette tapes.
Yeah, are you kidding? I remember listening to that cassette
I got them from
tape.
Columbia House.
Yeah, right. For a penny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then you get a bill.
Those days, and then you get a bill, and they're just like, "Oh, I see what you did there," and then you never paid it, and then they were always after you, and then they just gave up. It's like, yeah, that's what you get for But they're like, well, we ran the business model. If 60% of the people actually pay their bills, we're still way ahead. There's gonna be a lot of delinquency.
And what about music artists?
I mean, music was like all over the place. Top 40, I was a top 40 kid. So whatever was on the radio at the time, like Chicago, or again, like, yeah, Chicago, Michael Jackson, Billy Joel, Aerosmith, Earth, Wind and Fire. Yeah, I mean, like, I was into it all. I mean, I loved like Van Halen. I love Van Halen. I love Night Ranger. I was a huge Night
Sister
Ranger
Christian.
fan. Yeah, Sister Christian's a gorgeous song.
Yeah.
But you know that I feel like really lucky that this is probably way before your time. But I just remember like in the '80s.
No, I think I'm older than you.
No way.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Pretty sure.
You're 82.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Damn, I did
Yeah,
not.
I
know
just had my 82nd birthday.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, I did not.
We
see
went to
that
Mar-a-Lago.
coming. I did not
celebrate it.
I did not see that coming. Okay, that's crazy. I'm gonna verify that with a couple of people. But, yeah. No. Just growing up in the '80s, like I feel so lucky. You know, that's kind of one of the reasons why, like, if people were like, "Are you gonna have kids?" It's like I half of the reason. Well, 70% of the reason why I don't have kids is just because they're never going to have a childhood that was as great as mine.
Uh-huh.
It's just because if I think about it, like people hated their high school experiences, their junior high, whatever. And it's like, not that mine was all roses, but you could read about it in the book.
Yeah.
But, you know, like if you think about music back then, it was the perfect curve. Like for me, it was like what I call the perfect technological and media curve.
Yeah.
So you started with like unconnected technology to semi-connected technology, and like, you know, in the hallways, like, oh, we get to use the Apple IIc computer, and you know, I signed up for 10 minutes in the hallway, you know, during school hours in elementary school. You know, there'd be a computer outside of every classroom.
Right.
And you'd, like, get time on it.
Right.
And that was so much fun to like, oh, I get time on this computer and it does video games and it's Oregon Trail and Hunt the Wumpus and all this stuff. But then like the music on Top 40 radio was all over the place. It wasn't segregated.
Mm-hmm.
And music has become severely segregated because it makes more money that way. And it happened in the 90s with digital radio and creating micro genres.
Yep.
You know, so you had like alternative country, pop country, regular country, old school country, blues, alternative rock, power rock, classic rock, soft rock, all that stuff. Whereas in the 80s on the Top 40, I mean, you remember, it was like Aerosmith and Run DMC doing the thing together. Then it was Michael Jackson. Then it was Information Society.
Yeah.
Then it was Cyndi Lauper. And then it was, I don't know.
Human League.
Yeah, Human League.
British bands.
Yeah, British bands or like
one-hit wonders.
Bon
Crazy.
Jovi. Yeah. You know.
White Horse.
Yes, Howard Jones.
Howard Jones.
You know what I mean? Like all of
it was quite the mix. I used to listen to the Top 40. I used to listen to Casey Kasem.
Every Saturday.
Every Sunday, yeah.
It was Rick Dees or Casey Kasem.
Coming in at number 9.
I know, coming in right number 9. Still holding its place from last time. Just like, oh, who is it? Who is it? You know, like just listening like live and going, and I used to record it on my cheap tape recorder.
Me too.
You know, and it was exciting. It was just an exciting time for music because you got to hear everything. Now, it's just so siloed, and it's great. And someone's probably going to say like, you know, every time's different, and you know,
my kids are killing it, by the way.
You know,
they're having a blast.
I mean, okay,
trust me.
I know they are.
I'm sitting here working, and they're killing it. One played the Troubadour last night.
Yeah, no,